Adam here with CrossFit Closer with Conversations with Coach. Today we're going to be talking about something that a lot of us do all day that is very detrimental to our health. Sitting. Because of technology and the fact that we can do pretty much everything on our computers, there's a good percentage of North Americans, especially around our area, that spend upwards of 8 hours per day sitting at a desk, and then add on to that sitting in a car, sitting on the couch at home. We do a lot of this. In terms of what we see here in the gym, there's two major detriments to sitting for prolonged periods of time. Number one is the computer posture, the shoulders forward typing position that so many of us spend hours in every day, that leads to a position that with the shoulders staying forward, the whole front of the chest is tight, and then the back is very weak. The second one, and probably more important to everyday life, is the hip flexor. So when you sit all day, your hips are in a closed hip flexed position that leads to the shortening of your hip flexors. Our bodies are super cool in the way that they will more or less adapt to any stimulus that they're continuously put under. So the longer you sit, the shorter your hip flexors are going to end up. And the biggest cause for concern for the shortening of the hip flexors is if we think about the anatomy of the hip flexor first. So basically there's a set of muscles that run from below my hip joint to above my hip joint, which is all the anatomy we need to know here. When I'm standing, we can see that they're at a certain length. When I go ahead and close the hip and sit down, they are now substantially shorter. The more time I spend in this position, the more they're going to stay in this position. Now when I go ahead and open up my hip and try to pull on that muscle, what happens as a result is my pelvis tilts and I end up in a hyperextended position, which oftentimes leads to a good deal of back pain and limited range of motion through the hips, which will affect our movement in general. Some strategies that can be implemented to combat this are pretty simple stuff. One, get up, move around every once in a while, get the blood flowing, loosen up your hips, open up the shoulders, and then from there, if available, get a standing desk so that you're not sitting down all day, you're standing up. What I'm going to show now are just a couple exercises, a couple stretches that are going to help you combat the detriments of sitting all day. Now there are two components to helping out that shoulder position that we get into a lot as a result of being at a desk, at a computer, and typing all day. Those two components are relieving the tension through the front of the shoulder and chest, and two, creating some strength through the posterior shoulder between the shoulder blades to get us into that better shoulders back position. So on the note of flexibility, creating space in the front, one thing that you can do at home or at the office, anywhere that there's a doorway, is get yourself into the doorway, take the forearms out to the sides, and you're just going to lean through. Very simple. All I'm doing is getting a pull through the front of the chest. I'm going to aim to hang out here for a minute, 2 minutes, turn on a TV, maybe sit here for 10. A very simple way to create some strength, or at least some strength endurance in the posterior shoulder, is literally lay on the floor, and we're going to go through two different pieces. One, we're going to go with basically what we'll call a Y raise for this sake. Arms are straight out in front. I'm going to drop the forehead down, and all I'm doing is lifting from the shoulder. I'm going to hold for a couple seconds, and then release. Lift, and release. Probably go through a couple sets of 10 to 20 on this one. And then what I'm going to do is the same idea, but arms out to the side. So I'm going to create a T. I'm going to point my thumbs up to the ceiling. Same thing, forehead down on the ground. And I'm going to lift, pinching the shoulder blades together, turning on the rhomboids, and release. Lift, hold, release. Same idea, couple sets, 10 to 20. If I start doing that daily, I'm going to start fixing that shoulder position and end up with a little bit better posture.
So one of my favorite stretches to get the hip flexors open from all that sitting is called the couch stretch. So Reba's going to give us a quick demo here. Basically, she's going to start on all fours. From there, she's going to take one knee and bring it in against the wall so that the shin is up the wall. From there, she's going to take the opposite leg, step it forward till the shin is vertical. What we're looking for here is to pull the hips down and forward. And Reba's gonna feel that stretch basically right where her right hand was on the back hip flexor. If this position is not accessible due to limitations in flexibility, instead of having the back knee directly against the wall, she'll slide it forward, get into the same position, and this will allow her to get the same hip flexor opening without necessarily being as flexible.
One thing I like to preach to our members is what I call the 23-in-1 rule. So if you're at our gym, let's say 1 hour every day, which most people are not, what are you doing for the other 23 hours of your day? Are you making steps in a positive direction that are going to help your health, fitness, in this case flexibility, or are you doing things that are detrimental? Let's try to shift that balance, try to even it out a little bit by spending a little bit more time in good positions as opposed to sitting. Get out there and stretch.